Welcome to our Authentication Factors module. In this module, we will discuss something a user knows authentication. Passwords are the most common type of something a user knows authentication. They provide the least expensive method of authentication, but they're also the least secure. Once an attacker is able to discover a user's password, they can very easily impersonate that user. Users typically do not know that their password has been stolen and therefore do not know that someone is logging in pretending to be them. Passwords can be stolen using social engineering, which is a non-technical attack where the user is tricked into providing their password to a non-authorized individual. You can also have dictionary attacks and brute force attacks, which attempt to guess the user's password. It is important to have user training and a strict password policy in order to increase your security. Users often write down their passwords or choose passwords that are easy to guess from a dictionary, and users very rarely change their password. So it's important to have complex passwords of a significant length with symbols, numbers, uppercase and lowercase letters. You can use password generators to create complex passwords, but again, if they're complex, users may just write them down. And it's best to use complex passphrases, but these are not always allowed due to limitations in systems. We do have some best practices we can follow as it relates to passwords to increase security. In order to prevent brute force attacks, we should make sure that passwords are at least 12 characters long. We should also make sure that users are not using dictionary words because this makes them very easy to guess. The system should have a threshold or clipping level of a certain number of failed login attempts before the user is locked out. Typically this is 3 to 5 attempts. Our systems should maintain an audit log with the date and time, the user ID, and the workstation they were attempting to log in from, and then an administrator should be reviewing this log of failed attempts in order to determine if there is an active attack on the network. Once the user's password has been locked out for too many failed password attempts, they should either need to contact an administrator to unlock their account or go through some type of self-service password reset system that should ask them additional verification questions before unlocking their account. We should also change our passwords frequently because once someone obtains our password, they're able to use that password forever until we change it. The password life should be short but practical. Changing the password every 60 to 90 days is about average. Cognitive passwords are very easy to remember for the user, but it's also very easy for an unauthorized individual to crack these passwords. These password questions are usually facts or opinions based on information about the user, things like a mother's maiden name, a pet's name, or a favorite color. Although these are very easy for your user to remember, they are also easy for an attacker to guess. Things like your mother's maiden name can be located in public records, and an attacker could use that to impersonate one of your users. It is best to use information that is not true when answering these questions in order to prevent an attacker from gaining access to accounts. Often, passwords are reset by having access to these questions, so if an attacker is not able to guess the user's password, they'll simply reset the user's password and enter the answer to the question, like what's my favorite pet's name. They're able to determine the user's pet's name and then reset their password. We want to use strong passwords, and one method of doing this is a passphrase. This is a sequence of characters including spaces, and it's usually longer than a password. These longer passwords resist dictionary attacks because they're not actually using dictionary words, and they resist brute force attacks because of their length. It's important to find passwords that are easy for a user to remember, and that way the user will not have to write the passwords down, creating a security risk. Once passwords are entered into a system, the system will transform the password into a virtual password or hash and store it as a hash rather than storing the actual password. This helps to prevent an attack where a user captures a password database and has access to the passwords for all of the users. This concludes our Authentication Factors module. Thank you for watching.